Now that we have the foundation walls underneath our structure up above, we can see that there are actually a few issues that we need to take care of first. First off, if I move this building around, we can take a look at this and we can see that there's brick currently floating in midair. Now that's not usually a good thing whenever you're talking about the structure underneath a house. There needs to be something that's going to support this brick. So we're going to need to make some adjustments to our foundation walls there to be able to support the brick. Also, we currently have the same type of foundation wall going around the perimeter here. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, depending on where we want to look at this. The only thing is, though, is that part of this wall ends up having 2x4 studs right here, along with gypboard, in order to frame the wall out. Now, back here, which is going to be our storage or utility room area, we don't want to have any sort of wall framing there, which is going to be an unfinished space. So we're going to need to use a different wall type in that location as well in order to communicate that properly. So in order to do that, we need to go back into our basement floor plan view and start to make a few modifications. Now I'm going to start off by zooming in on this corner of the building. This part of the building has grade going up much higher on it than this end of the building. So the ground is much lower over here than it is over here. As a result of that, we need to have foundation walls that go down deeper in the earth over here as opposed to over here. The reason is whenever the ground starts to freeze, the building might start to contract, expand, move up, move down. And if your foundation walls aren't deep enough, they won't be able to resist those forces. We need to make those adjustments so that it has the right depth of foundation wall in both locations. To begin with, I'm going to come down to this corner of the building, and I'm going to come up to my annotate tool. Now, there isn't a real nice and easy tool in order to break this wall up into different depths, so we're going to need to use some tools to sort of give us some guidelines, if you will, in order to be able to create the conditions that we need. Now, I selected on detailed lines off of the ribbon up above, and I'm going to click on the little intersection right here and just draw a little line coming off the side here. Next, I know that depth needs to be 20 feet coming up. So I'm going to select on this line that I just drew off of the edge, and I'm going to select the copy command, pick a point, and then type in 20 feet. And that's just going to be my baseline as to where I'm going to be able to split this wall at. I'm going to split the wall right there. I also know that I need to make another line that's just 2'6" up from this one. Now, the reason why I need to do that is that there's going to be no finished material on this little wall section right here, but this wall segment is going to have that 2x4 stud with some gypboard on the outside of it, like it currently has. Now, I'm going to move to the right-hand side. I'm going to draw in some more of these lines. I'm going to draw a line right here, straight out, and I'm going to copy this one up. I'm going to copy it up 2 feet 4 inches. From here, I'm going to make another copy of this line, and I'm going to copy it up 7 feet 8 inches. Now we're going to use the split tool in order to split this wall up into individual segments and this wall up into individual segments so we can change the properties of the walls in those locations. So I'm going to select on the wall and come up here to the split element tool, oftentimes just called the split tool. And then I'm going to move my little symbol right here. It kind of looks like an X-Acto knife blade. And I'm going to move until it's in line with this line right here. And you'll see that gray line show up. Whenever you see it, click and do it again in both locations. If you do it right, you can see that you can sort of highlight over one, over another segment, and over another segment. We now have officially 3 different segments along that wall. I'm going to do the same thing over here next. Select on that, come up to the split element tool, click once, zoom in a little bit just to make sure that I got it accurate, click again. Now I have this wall segment and this wall segment. Now I need to make some adjustments. The first adjustment I want to make is going to be to this wall right here, as well as this wall here on the side. This foundation 8-inch finish is mostly good, except it's not going to be supporting the brick up above it very well. So in order to support that brick up above, we need to change this to be a foundation 12-inch finish wall. And you can see how it added in that extra little bit of material, which is actually 4 more inches of brick on the outside. One other change I want to make to these walls, and I'm just going to highlight on both of these again, is I'm going to change the top extension of these walls to be -7¼ inches. I could do -7.25 if I wanted, and I'd get the same results. Just make sure to put in the little inch sign, or else it'll do feet instead of inches. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to change this brick ledge, which is the part that got added when we changed the wall type, so that it's down far enough that it can support the brick up above it and have the right appearance that we want on the outside of our building. I'm also going to select on these walls and look at one more setting here. We're going to take a look at what the base of it's set at. And right now it's set to go out to the walkout. We don't really want that. We just want it to go to the top of footing here. So we'll select on the TOF, the top of footing. And that'll make these walls just a little bit shorter, which is what they need to be because they don't need to go as far into the ground. Now we're going to do the same thing with these walls, where I'm going to select on these walls, and I'm going to change their base constraint to also be the top of footing because it doesn't need to go as deep into the ground. Also, these walls don't need to have that finished material associated with it. So I'm going to select here in the type selector list and pick on foundation 8-inch. And you can see how I removed that finished material on the inside of the walls. So we no longer have the 2x4s and the gyp material on the inside of those walls. Now, in this location, the depth happens to be correct, but the wall type just isn't. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this to be just a foundation 8-inch so it matches up with this material right here, this wall right there. Now you can see that that's been changed. And these walls are already set with the right material and the right depth. The next thing we can do is we can remove these lines because we no longer need these reference lines. They don't really affect anything. They'll only show up in this view, but when we're working with our floor plan views, they'd kind of be getting in our way, so we just don't need them. And now if we look at this in a 3D view, we'll have a better feeling for what's actually going on with the building. Now, one other thing that I can see right now that we're going to need to change is this one. This wall doesn't need to go this deep, so we'll change its base constraint, and you can do this in 3D views as well, to this top of footing. And you can see how it raises that up, and now the brick up above is supported appropriately. By using these steps, you'll be a success in placing the exterior foundation walls in any of our Revit projects.